Dear student teachers, warm welcome to the session. From this semester onwards, we are having the specialization papers. During your first semester, you might have come across the nature and needs of hearing impairment. The sound we hear indicates the surroundings of us. But if a person is having hearing impairment, they couldn't be able to understand the surroundings. That's why there is very much important to identify the hearing impairment as soon as possible. The present lesson, early intervention of hearing loss, indicated that one only. I am Dr. Anupama, Assistant Professor of Special Education, Tamil Nadu Open University. The key concepts of this session are the communication, hearing impairment, screening of hearing loss, early intervention of children with hearing impairment, and early educational intervention. Communication is a very much basic need. We express our ideas, thoughts, feelings through communication. Of course, animals also do communicate, but one or the other way. But it's the special ability of humans to use language and speech to communicate. In the communication process, there will be a sender who is sending the information, and there will be the receiver, that's you. Then a message, a content. Now our content is early identification of hearing loss and through a media. In which media we are communicating? These are the four aspects of communication. We know that language skills are four: listening, speaking, reading, writing. If we could able to listen alone, we could able to respond, could able to speak. If the receptive skills of language are best before the production of expressing language, then the person can easily, effectively can communicate through the language. But structural and physiological changes in human auditory system leads to hearing handicap. Then this will also be called as hearing impairment. Hearing impairment is nothing but inability to hear. They couldn't able to hear what the others are saying. And another characteristic of hearing impairment is it is invisible disability. Like other disabilities, like a person with visual impairment or person with developmental disabilities, we can't, by seeing itself, but we can't confirm that a person is having a hearing loss. Through behavior alone, we could able to identify that one. Hearing impairment handicap the person from that day-to-day life effectively. Mostly, if the hearing impairment occurred before the prelingual, that means before acquiring the language, particularly birth to 3 years, then it will be more effective on speech production. It affects the speech production. If the hearing impairment acquired during the perilingual, that is during the language acquisition, the language will be completed by the end of 6 years. That is by 0 to 6 years, we can say that one majority of the language will be acquired by the person. If the child couldn't able to grasp the things during the language period, means it will also have the effect on his speech. Then coming to the postlingual. Postlingual indicates that after acquiring the language, if a person got the hearing impairment. But the last one, postlingual, won't be have that much of effectiveness towards the speech. Why? Because already they might have received the information, they could able to speak. Whereas the prelingual and the perilingual, these two areas, these two periods will have much effect on the speech of a children with hearing impairment. So if slow down the language process from the cooing to babbling stages, particularly, why? Because this is the critical period. A normal child as well as a hearing impaired child will be same up to babbling stage. When the babbling stage comes over, no, they used to say ta 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 ba 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 like that. During that period, if they could able to hear, they could reproduce more and more. If they couldn't do that one, means the child with hearing impairment will stop their speech, whereas the normal child, because of hearing their sound, they will do much more. They will increase the speech ability. Parents know after the birth of a child, if the child is unable to respond to the sound, unable to localize the sound, means immediately the parents can suspect that there is something wrong with the child. If they could able to identify that one as soon as possible and meet the audiologist or the doctor immediately, means there are possibilities to increase their language, speech by using their residual hearing through the hearing aids. That's why early intervention is very much important. So there are less awareness towards this one, hearing screening and everything. There are inadequate facilities also, and they don't have the proper guidance. Because of all these things from the parents' side, delayed in effective interaction and intervention. Early childhood is very much important. Why? Because majority of the milestones are used to be held in this early childhood. If the identification and assessment of any disability, it may be gross motor related, visual and problem solving related, receptive or expressive language related, social or adaptive behavior related, whatever the milestone is, if it has been identified as soon as possible, immediately quick intervention can be given. Intervention, we can say, it is the involvement in a difficult situation for the purpose of to improve it or to prevent it from getting worse. Early intervention helps developmentally delayed to learn basic and brand new skills during the first to 6 years. This is the critical period. So if we identify earlier, means automatically skills can be developed in that particular area. How can we identify that one, that whether a child is having hearing impairment or not? There are some screening tests. Usually these screening tests will be held at hospitals or primary health centers. What they will do, why they are doing screening test? They are doing the screening test to separate the normal hearing children as well as hearing loss children. By identifying the hearing impaired children, so the next steps can be proceed with. There are 3 types of screening tests. Number 1 is medical diagnosis. Mostly this will be held during the birth of a child. The audiologist will check whether the child is having the normal hearing ability or not. If not, means how much disability they are having, everything they will be check over. Coming to the monitoring hearing status. This will be usually done to the people who used to have the history of very noise surroundings. So there are some, even if they are taking the autotaxic medication also, there are possibility to have the hearing impairment. So these tests will be held to that persons. Then coming to the auditory fitness. This used to be conducted on the persons who used to be at military or at the pilots. They should be very much, they should have very much systematic hearing capacity. For that ability to check over that one, auditory fitness will be held. So this is the how they are doing. Then why they are doing? By identifying that one, there is a possibility to provide a suitable hearing aid, and with that one, by using the residual hearing, there are possibilities to develop speech and language, proper schooling as well as occasional placement of the children. A well begin is half done. As soon as we identify the child with hearing impairment, immediately we can provide the intervention. First of all, we can counsel the parents. Why? Because they'll be feeling so much of stress to accept the child. So by giving counseling, the parents will accept the child, and with the help of audiologist, the residual capabilities of hearing capabilities of the child can be utilized by proper hearing aid or ear molds and cochlear implants. So by using their residual capabilities, there are chances for their better psychosocial and educational achievements. That's why hearing screening technology is very much important. As we mentioned earlier, it used to be done during the time of birth to detect the degree of hearing impairment, whether it is mild, moderate, severe or profound. We can easily diagnose that one, and based on the type of hearing loss, whether the child is having problem in the outer or middle ear, conductive hearing loss, otherwise inner or auditory path, sensory neural hearing loss, or the both. By getting information of all these things, the child we can provide better opportunities to the child. Up to 6 years of age is very critical period for language development. So the parents and caregivers should concentrate more on the language development. To advance their language and academics, early parent interaction program should be held, and whenever, wherever the child attempts to speak words, immediately reinforcement like patting or applauding should be given. So there is a need to provide chances at each step to acquire language and speech through audition. Early intervention inculcates habit of listening. With continuous listening in a bombard way, so automatically that will help the child to produce intelligible speech. As well as when the parent as well as special educator are involving, they will closely observe the speaker, and they can develop even the lip reading also. During the critical period, every day is important for learning. That's why the parents continuously should verbalize the child on the world around him. If the child is taking bath, we have to show the mug, water, bath, and each and how many words you could able to increase can be done. So by that the child could able to associate the thing and this sound, so that they would able to develop their speech. So but the speech, how the talk should be, it should be short, legible, relevant sentences in normal voice without exaggeration of sounds and movements, and words of the things to be repeated many times in a meaningful manner situations. We can say that it's a team of cooperation of family members, guidance and counseling, speech therapist, caregivers. Together we can make the child could able to speech. There is another thing, that is auditory verbal approach. It aims to acquire and process speech and language through audition. The room should be the auditory verbal approach. When we are implementing means, the room should be speech absorbent room with sound proof, and sound absorbent material should be used. Making sound awareness while playing with the child. Both the special educator as well as the parent together will help the child to acquire the language in each and every moment of the interaction. Speech stimulus is the auditory cue to the actual object. For each and everything with the object, the speech will be repeatedly explaining to the child. So like vehicles, animals, birds, whatever the thing is, it should be frequently showing the material, and we have to produce the speech. Immediate reinforcement should be given to the child for each and every success of the child. Familiar stereotypic sentences like come here, good boy, bye bye, wash your hands, with the oral as well as with the sign language, so that the student could able to understand what the speaker is saying, and they could able to do that work. Then answering the questions, locating where is the ball, put the toy in the box, or some open-ended questions. Tell what happened today. Like if the bird figure or otherwise the doll will be shown, then we will ask what it is doing. So the student could able to enlarge the sentences, and they could able to say. And some of the rhymes, rhythmic rhymes and storytelling. So for each and everything, before schooling, the preschool time, extension, it can be said that it's an extension of the home. So individualized education program should be held to the children with hearing impairment at home with all the family members support as well as the special educator and caregiver. Then the early intervention, educational intervention, how we can done this educational intervention. Our constitution, then also the recent policies and programs on special education, everything is focusing upon education for all. Education should be given to irrespective of there shouldn't be any discrimination in providing the education. But only 20% of hearing impaired children without hearing aid, they don't have even hearing aid, cochlear implantation. Because of that thing, identification will be delayed, their intervention will be delayed, so that when the critical period has been missed out, the natural language couldn't make it possible. So that there are risky chances of communication, academic and social difficulties. Many educational interventions at special schools or the inclusive schools used to be held. The first one is IEP, Individualized Education Program. It used to be given to overcome learning difficulties and developmental potentials in a phased manner. There are individual differences among all of us. One person may be a quick grasper, other one will be a slower. So whatever the individual paced manner is, but through the IEP, the student's ability will be increased step by step. This is very much important for all the levels of the children with hearing impairment. Whereas peer support program, this is very much suitable for the higher grades. Why? Because there will be little teachers called. The peer group itself, they used to be called as the little teachers, and they will try to, but the system, we used to say that one, they used to be attached with one child with hearing impairment, and they used to develop their language, communication and everything. Then the remedial teaching. This remedial teaching, visual learning or auditory learning or practical experience, whatever that thing is, through the multi-sensory approach. That means all the senses used to be utilized. They'll see the doll or real object or the thing, they will hear what is it, they will touch it with the total 5 senses if possible. Multi-senses can be utilized so that they can get the concept clearly. And the total communication. The student with hearing impairment shouldn't be confined to any one of the communication. So there should be a total communication of auditory, visual communication, signs, speech reading and hearing everything together come to the total communication. With that, the student could able to understand the concept. And the teacher and parents help their child self-monitor spoken language through listening. Always they use it to make the child to talk. So practicing so that the child will be able to produce the more number of words and sentences. Hearing is, we all know that hearing is very much needed to speech, language development and communication and learning. So from easy to difficult, from simple to complex, each and everything should be informed to the child to practice and to develop the language up to getting learning. So there won't be any single intervention program fit can say is fit to everything, but good intervention includes close monitoring and follow-up activities along the way, so that the child could able to, we can able to make the child to be counterpart of normal hearing. We can say that rose is a rose, though a petal is lost. Though a child is having hearing impairment, we can't say that one, he is not a human resource of the national development. He is also part of it, and he is also a gifted of parents as well as teacher. So we, the special educators, should think over of them, should make them as normal. Thank you.